That's funny.
Good morning, folks, and welcome to the fifth episode of the FinTech Insider Breakfast Show, a show from the folks from 11FS bringing you the breaking news from around FinTech and banking landscape every morning at 8:30 GMT. So the idea of this show, if you haven't tuned in before, is, we're pretty much all going to be cooped up for a little while. So what we want to be doing is making sure that we keep you guys really abreast of everything that's happening in the space. We want to try and start your day off a little bit brighter with a group of people either from the 11FS family or from a bunch of people that are friends of 11FS from around the globe. So what we want to do today is bring on somebody. When I kind of think about people who I could just chat to for half an hour and it'd be super, super easy, Mr. Simon Vance Kalina, formerly of Monzo, now at Fronted. How's it going, my friend?
Good morning, David. How are you?
Yeah, really good. I was just saying offline, you're looking a lot better than I am, dude. You're like sharp, like cleanly shaven, looking smart. I feel like I saw something online a couple of days ago. It's like 3 days into coronavirus, and I already haven't showered for 5 weeks. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. But
this is something that you probably do more regularly than I do. But I cut my own hair the other day, and
okay.
It looks terrible from all angles except Zoom. So this is it.
So you've cut it perfectly straight
on camera. Yeah. No one's seeing me from behind. No one's seeing me from the side. It's great.
Yeah, you could grow like a 3-month mullet and nobody would know about it. It's just straight from the front. Well, it's great to talk to you, and thanks for making the time this morning. For anybody who doesn't know what you do or your background, do you want to just give a little bit of an overview of what you've been up to, and then maybe talk a little bit more about what you're doing with Fronted as well?
Sure. So I met you probably 5 years ago when I was at Monzo. I did a bunch of different things at Monzo. I was there for almost 5 years. And I left in November to co-found with Jamie Campbell a company called Fronted. And we are going to change renting. There's a whole bunch of problems for renters, but we've decided to attack the problem of renters from the side of the renter. A lot of people have tried to solve the problem for landlords and estate agents, but we're going to do it for the renter, very definitely on the side of the renter. So we're starting with deposits. We're trying to build a deposit loan product, which is safe and easy, affordable. And that's sort of where we are. We're 3 months into it, so it's still a very early stage startup.
That's super cool, though. It's honestly, I think with the stage that we're in the cycle from a fintech perspective, where people who used to work at somewhere amazing and work at somewhere amazing coming together to make something else amazing, it's a great point in the cycle. A lot of people have sort of talked about what's going to happen with the sort of Monzo mafia style thing in a similar way that PayPal was in the day, right? So as if one amazing startup wasn't enough, you're off to do something new.
Yeah. It's been an interesting time to try and start a company. The things that are in our control have gone unbelievably well, and but obviously, the entire world is changing so quickly right now. It feels pretty awkward sometimes.
It does.
But yeah, I love the team. We've got an amazing team, and we've just smashing out product pretty quickly, and really finding our grounding as a team and working together and stuff. So it's the bits that are in our control are going great.
Great. A bunch of people have kind of joined us live. So hey to a bunch of people. Hey, Greg. Hey, Alberta. Hey, Malcolm. Hey, Natalia. Thanks for joining us this morning. If you want to drop any questions to Simon, or want anything answering about, anything that he, how he cut his own hair, ask us that question. That would be fun. We had people requesting from Val Christensen yesterday her recipe for pancakes. So there's going to be all sorts of stuff kind of happening in the comments. So get involved, guys, and let us know what you want to know. I guess starting with the obvious, Simon, how are you? Because obviously this is sort of pretty weird times, but how are you holding up?
Yeah, I'm fine. I was actually in Japan in the second half of February, and it was one of those times where it was do I go? Do I not go? And I got to Japan, and it was everybody everyone knew that exponential growth being what it is. Everyone knew it was going to get bad, but it hadn't really gotten bad. So I went to Japan, and I came back, and then I didn't get sick in Japan. I normally get sick on airplanes. I didn't get sick on an airplane. I felt fine, and then I basically went into self-isolation a week later. Honestly, it's for me, it's been one of those things where I don't have an intuitive understanding of like exponential growth, but like at a like intellectual level, I understand it. So I wrote on the whiteboard in the office actually the numbers 1 through 14, and I wrote a couple of columns, and the columns beside it I wrote the number of people on Twitter that I know that have been affected personally, and then the number of people I know personally that have been affected by it. And it started with 0, and it got to like day 8, I think, or day 7. Day 7 and day 8 was the weekend, and obviously I'm not in the office anymore, so I can't keep it up to date anymore. But it was genuinely really interesting. It's like at first that there was nobody on Twitter that I follow or that interacted with that had been affected, and then it was 1, and then it was 3, and then it was 9, and then I didn't know anyone personally that had been affected, and then now it's up to about 3 or 4 people. So yeah, it's real, and it's exponential, and it's affecting people, and I think it's going to affect a lot more people as well. So yeah, for me personally, I'm fine. I'm self-isolating in a house full of all my hobbies and toys and experiments that I've spent the last 5 years promising myself that one day I'll have time to finish. So now I actually have.
I mean, there's going to be. I mean, I feel bizarrely. I said I sort of put this on LinkedIn yesterday. I feel just insanely focused right now. Do you know what I mean, like the amount of distractions that happen in your day-to-day life, but actually being in a situation where what I know I need to do over the next kind of couple of months is super clear, super focused on it. So it's I mean, like you say, all those things. I did gardening at the weekends. This was weird. You know what I mean? Like, these are things that I've been putting off for like a year. So like, there's just an amazing amount of things that actually, like, say you're going to get around to do. But yeah, I mean, one of the things.
On the focus thing though, David, I think be careful, because like you probably normally have this like mental headspace of like work is over here and like not work is over here. And I think one of the things that we haven't all been self-isolated for long enough to realize yet is that you need to have a space where you work and a space where you don't work, or you're going to end up working all the time. So, like, I just, try to like everyone. My dad was in Antarctica for 6 months, and he tells me stories about cabin fever. And like, wow, it's a real thing, Like NASA basically has spent years and years and years coming up with, I can't remember what they call them, expedition behaviors, EBs. Expedition behaviors is basically this study, this science about how to get people to live in a tin can together and not kill each other. And now we're doing this experiment with 60 million adults who have no training. So it's
yeah. I mean, it is interesting. I was saying, it's like some of the benefits is like, I haven't been in an air conditioned unit for like 9 days. That's awesome. But equally, I mean, other than around Christmas time, like I'm coming up on 10 days at home. I mean, as a reformed consultant, then I haven't done that for nearly 10 years. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of it's just an amazing thing that you've got all of these things that change. I mean, I think the most exciting thing, I don't know about you guys at Fronted, I'm sure productivity is still pretty high. I think for organizations where actually you've got dispersed people anyway, then how are you guys kind of staying connected and sort of keeping working?
Yeah, it's been really no different for us. 5 years ago at Monzo, at the very, very first team meeting, I think after we were in Passion Capital's office in White Bear Yard, and Tom called this meeting. I think there was like 8 or 9 of us at the time. And he called this meeting and basically said, like, this is like Monzo is going to be a thing. Like, what are the behaviors and what are the things that we want to bring to the team that you've seen that work at other companies? And I suggested something that I took from my previous company, from Pearson, which is I suggested mandatory work from home Fridays, because like we'd sort of fallen into the habit of Pearson, and I thought it was good for 2 reasons. One, it made you check that your VPN actually worked, and it gave you the opportunity to do your washing, so you could have the weekend to yourself. So I suggested that to Tom that we have mandatory work from home Fridays, and Tom said, why don't we do it every second Friday? And Monzo has always had that. So every second Friday is work from home Friday. And it meant that and it had an other unintended disaster recovery. Hey, I froze. I told you that would happen. So banks have to have sort of disaster recovery plan. And it usually involves another office, like a disaster office where you go to and you have a computer set up and ready to go. But we never did that at Monzo. We always had this plan to like send everybody home and make sure everyone could work from home. So when we started Fronted, we basically decided to copy the same strategy. So we have had mandatory work from home Friday every second Friday for the entire history of the company. So it's not a real difference for us to just go and work from home all the time.
Well, I mean, I've said to a few people, I don't think it's just I just don't think it's the technology side of things. I think definitely, like say, making sure VPNs and all those things are kind of working, and the amount of companies who don't do Zoom or Hangouts or whatever. But it's actually just having like an organization where you trust all the people to be where they need to be to do what they need to do. And
yeah, you probably spend more time in big banks than I do these days, but do big banks have real-time messages like Slack yet? Or like last time I worked at Citibank, it was all email.
Yeah, definitely not Slack. I mean, there'll be sort of pockets of those things for sort of projects and things, but not on mass scale. It's all email still, wow. And I detest email. I mean, I've tried to explain Slack to people in a way that they can kind of comprehend it, and it's like the perfect email system where all of your emails are already in the folders where they should live. Because I've got like slight OCD with that stuff. I have to like put everything where it needs to be. So now I just completely ignore email in terms of what we're doing. So a bunch of other people just joined in as well. Hey, Dave Birch, good to see you, my friends. Hey, Dharmesh, how's it going? Great to see you, Christina. Question from Dharmesh. So tell us a little bit more about Fronted then. So what is it that you're doing in the market that's different? How do you want to have impact on the market? Because sure. I mean, it's a pretty big problem you're solving, right?
Yeah, it is. So I mean, rent is one of those things it's one of the most awkward parts of living in a modern society. Is the way we describe it is, like 10 years ago, you could go to a website like holidayrentals.com. I'm making that up, but like holidayrentals.com, and you could find someone who had an apartment in Barcelona, and you could email them or message them, and you could work out how to pay them, and you could work out how to get the key from them, and you could like the Airbnb experience existed, but it wasn't a product. It was it was just people doing a DIY experience. And rent in the world that we live in now is like that. You don't have this productized experience of renting. You have websites that help, that are quite new, but like Prime Location and Rightmove, but you still have to like contact the estate agent. You still have to get the key, and you still have to set up your gas and electricity and council tax, and you have to pay this huge chunk of money, a deposit up front, and you have to it's all just a DIY experience. And so Fronted is basically formed to convert the process of renting into something that's a real product. And we're starting with the deposit because it's such a big problem for people. It's a huge chunk of money at a time when your life is changing. Like, that the month that you move house, it's so expensive, to be asked to pay a month's rent in advance plus a deposit, plus you've got to have movers, plus you've got to have buy a couch for your new apartment, for example. Like, it's a very expensive time, and there isn't a reason why why borrowing that money should be expensive. Like, when you borrow money from your overdraft costs 39% these days since the high cost short-term credit review came out. But borrowing money to pay a deposit should be a very low cost form of borrowing, because the money is just sitting in the deposit protection scheme, and it's low moral hazard. It's not money that can be, you can't spend it in Las Vegas, and you can't use it to pay off your credit card debts. So it should be a very cheap form of credit. It should just be something like a subscription service. Like, your deposit should cost you about £60 per month for the next year, like your internet does. It shouldn't be like, £2,000 cash, before you can get your keys. So we want to fix that. So that's basically what we're doing.
Well, it's super interesting, because the amount of people who rent these days increasing, and actually the amount of organizations. I mean, a funny comment there from James York. This sounds like InsurTech rather than FinTech. Do you see this is really sort of bridging the boundaries between all of these things, isn't it?
Yeah, so insurance, like, there are insurance-based products that replace deposits, but they require the buy-in of the customer and the landlord and the estate agent. And that requires a habit change.
Sure.
Popular, I think, because I froze again.
You did.
They haven't been super popular because the market doesn't want to change its habits, and also, like, I have a slight moral concern about using insurance to replace a deposit. Like a deposit should be something that you take with you from property to property. It should be yours. It shouldn't be an annual fee. And the insurance products in the market right now, they're paid for by the customer, but they can't be claimed by the customer. And it sort of reminds me of payment protection insurance in a way. So I don't think the insurance. I don't think there's anything wrong with insurance as a general concept. I just don't think the insurance product is a good fit for the social aspirations of a society. Like the social aspirations of society is that your deposit is your bond that like goes with you from property to property, and like that's what was in the Conservative Manifesto, and that was what was in the Queen's speech. So I think, yeah.
And who are we to argue with the Queen, hey, at that point? So, I mean, something that you guys have been up to over the last, I mean, literally since all of this craziness kind of kicked off, actually, was everything that's happened with the COVID credit. Can you sort of talk a little bit more about that? Because, I mean, I think about it.
So on Saturday night, or on Friday night, or was it Saturday morning, I saw a message from Cy Taylor that basically said somebody should look at using open banking to help self-employed and freelancers prove their income so they could claim the furloughed worker support. And I snarkily replied, credit kudos and Fronted could build that in a weekend. And then I actually went back to sleep for about half an hour. And then I woke up and there was about 40 tweets in reply. And then I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this. And so we jumped on.
So that's the danger with social media, Simon. If you talk shit, you got to back that stuff up these days.
Yeah, so we did. We got together and Freddie and Matt and a bunch of people from Credit Kudos and John, one of Fronted's engineers, and Anthony and Jamie and I, we all jumped into Slack with Cy Taylor and we started work on it. And it started with 7 of us. And by the end of the first day, we had most of the product built. Well, about half of the product built. And by the end of the second day, we had it completely built. And our little COVID credit team had grown to 35 people. And we had all of the legal support that we could ever possibly hope for. And the basic concept is, like my sister lives in Amsterdam, and she was telling me that the Dutch government have more or less said to freelancers, it's like, just like if you can't work, just tell us and we will trust you and we'll just give you some sort of income. They haven't worked out the details yet. And the British government was saying, you know, it's an administrative burden to find evidence that people really were plumbers or wedding photographers or whatever, because quite often these people, they don't submit tax returns, or they may not have submitted a tax return. So we thought, you know, open banking can help prove and evidence an income from multiple different sources. So we built it, and then we've pitched it to HMRC and Her Majesty's Treasury and the FCA, and the response has been like really, really interesting. And yesterday we saw the Treasurer Rishi on Twitter say that they're going to do something. They just haven't fully announced yet what that is. So we stand ready to offer this as a free service. It's open source. It's on our GitHub repo on Code and Credit. So yeah, like we will do what we can to help freelancers. Like many of my friends and many of my friends and family are freelancers, and it's just so hard for people who are suddenly staring down the barrel of like no income for the next 6 months at all. So they need help like everybody else.
Yeah, and it's I mean to the point on that. I mean the stories of the sort of community really sort of coming together. I mean this is what I really love about, I think, the fintech community particularly is, you can pull together people who have their own priorities and their own things that they need to be doing right now, but they'll go out of their way to make sure that actually the whole community is kind of really being supported. I mean this has gone kind of crazy as well, right? TechCrunch picked it up this morning. Steve O'Hare kind of put something out there. Various different sort of players are doing it.
Yeah, so, BBC and Forbes and.
Yeah. So hopefully, this inspires a bunch of other people to do more and, give whatever they can. I'm sure there are people kind of listening to this or watching this right now who would want to be able to do something. But I think it starts with this something as simple as just making sure you're supporting the people kind of in and around you. And then actually, if you've got the skills to go out there and make something awesome.
Yeah, they say necessity is the mother of invention, right?
100%. Yeah. It's amazing how often that happens, right? We had a question a second ago, which I think is a good one. I'm not sure how many people are in the Fronted team right now.
So we're 10.
10 people. So the on the topic of productivity and mental health, this is a question from Alberta. I have a question for you both. How do you manage to, and how are you supporting teams who have to juggle childcare duties and maintain productivity? For me, I mean, we've said basically your family is the most important thing. Work stuff is work stuff, but like, everything that happens in your four walls, particularly given you're going to be spending so much more time in your four walls, is definitely the priority. So, fit work around life rather than fit life around work over this period, just to kind of make sure that things are there. I mean, I'm sure you've got a similar approach, Simon, but
Yeah, we do.
I don't know how.
We gave our employees a grant basically to like a sort of work from home budget for people to buy a few £100s worth of equipment to make their life at home more comfortable. So things like chairs and monitors and we also told people it's not just for worky work type stuff. We want to, like, you can use your budget to do things that you think will help protect you from cabin fever or to help take care of your kids. So, things like an Apple TV or an iPad, so your kids have an iPad each, or like anything that can help ease the burden of being trapped in a small apartment with a bunch of kids or with your partner or with your other flatmates. So it does make a huge difference. Like I went into the office and grabbed my monitor and my chair and just set my house up a little bit different. Just a few little tweaks here and there, and like suddenly life becomes a lot easier. To stomach the idea of being trapped inside. I'm actually doing something completely crazy today. I'm drilling a hole through my floor from my upstairs office into my lounge room, so I can put a USB-C cable down through the floor. So I can basically plug my gaming computer upstairs into my Oculus Quest downstairs, so I can play Half-Life Alyx. So I'm physically modifying my house because I'm going to be trapped in this building for potentially the next few months. I might as well have the best possible virtual reality setup.
I mean, have you seen? Please tell me you've watched Silicon Valley.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The episode where Guilfoyle just bangs a hole in the wall. You're essentially Guilfoyle right now.
Yeah.
You want that shortest connection, yeah?
Yeah, I started drilling a hole yesterday and realized my drill bit wasn't long enough. So I've got a new one coming on Amazon today to finish the job. So.
Do you know what my real panic right now is if Amazon stops delivering things, because it's all the little things that just appear at my house that actually, when that stops, I'm freaking out. But
how much is this going to change the world after this? Like, who's going to go out shopping again? Like, everybody is going to just deliver. Like, I think that necessity is the mother of invention, and we've already seen super apps in Asia that have, like, I was in Malaysia recently, and Grab there is incredible. It's like whatever you want, you just like open Grab, and it's like you want food delivered, you want your washing done, like everything is all in the one app. And I think that super apps, because of I don't know why they don't work in the West. It's something to do with regulation or something to do with, I don't know. But the idea that an app can do everything for you is going to be so much more embedded in people's minds. Like, I mean, like for all of us who work in fintech in East London, we're probably already pretty used to an app for everything. But my mum learned how to use Zoom the other day. My 50 plus friends are suddenly on House Party for the first time, and like this is gonna like this is genuinely going to change society in a way that I think people are going to start talking about it, but like the societal change is going to be huge, absolutely huge.
I mean, and that's the positive side for sure. I think it kind of feels like a lot of things. I mean, you've been working in the fintech space for a while. There's so many things that people could use, but I mean, do you think people will get sort of pushed out? You say about necessity. Do you think the necessity now will make people start using providers who provide full online experiences or delivery capability? I mean, my only concern is just the amount of friggin' cardboard that comes through my door. Actually we need a better mechanism for not the sort of environmental disaster that it could be, but it's an interesting one. I wonder how many people are going to start adopting distributed workforces in a much more significant way as well now, because it sort of proves that you can and the system doesn't break, right?
Yeah, I think I think, sorry, I froze again. I think big banks are gonna be like rushing to implement remote working and VPN and chat. Like this is the new default.
Yeah.
So yeah, there'll be a lot of work there for consultants, I imagine, to help them set that up.
Agree. The comment from Dexter on what your points that you were just making around everything that's happening over in Asia. So he says Grab and Razer are going to be the ones to watch.
Mm.
I mean, I've been a believer for a long while that I think financial services will become part of an operating system. I think, actually what Razer do with hardware over there. And actually, I mean, I know Simon's watching this. His fancy laptop that does all the things with the the Razer badge on the back of it. I mean, the more those things move into the operating system and then really get integrated into the hardware, the better that whole thing's going to be. I mean, I wonder with the whole super apps thing, I do wonder whether it's just a cultural thing. You get used to WeChat didn't start with 5,000 different services in it. It started with like one and grew from there. And the argument has always been in the West is like it's just too confusing and our brains don't work like that. But actually, I think with anything, you've got to ease your way into it, haven't you? So I can see that type of capability happening here, but it won't be from one of the big players. It'll be, or won't be from one of the big banks. It'll be from one of the smaller players pulling all that stuff together, I think.
Yeah, I mean, somebody said to me the other day, it's like if your bank app doesn't have food delivery in it, then like what are you even doing?
It's a very different bar of success at that point, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what do you I mean, there's lots of different predictions going back to coronavirus. Sorry, but there's lots of different sort of predictions here about. I mean, how long this will take, and what level of impact you're sort of seeing.
Mm.
What do you sort of see the sort of fallout of this? I think there's huge amounts of obviously huge amounts of negatives. There's people dying. There's families being really sort of torn apart. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, as well. I think things like the stuff that you guys have been doing from a credit perspective is opportunities to get out there and help people. So do you think we're going to see more and more and more of that?
So I think there's going to be an 8-week lockdown followed by a pulsed easing. Let's from the Imperial report, a pulsed easing of lockdown and a lot more contact tracing. But I think what's going to happen in about 2.5 months' time is there's going to be a lot of creditworthy consumers who have depleted savings. Like the government's priority right now is protect human life, protect the ability of the economy to recover quickly, and then a distant third, protect people's personal net wealth, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of creditworthy consumers, a lot of pent up demand for moving house. Like sadly, like being trapped in a house with your loved one can have very serious consequences. There's going to be a lot of couples breaking up. There's going to be a lot of people who just want to move out, don't want to live with their flatmates anymore. There's going to be a lot of demand for people to move. So we think that we want to be there to help creditworthy consumers with depleted savings and a pent up demand for change in their lives. So cynically, I think it's probably a good time to launch Fronted after this. I'm kind of glad that we hadn't launched before this. You don't want to start a lender right at the end of an economic cycle, but you want to start one at the beginning of a new economic cycle. So this will be a new economic cycle, I think. So that's my prediction.
Yeah. Well, and it definitely hasn't stopped people in the last couple of weeks, right? There is major rounds being closed. Revolut launched in the US this week, didn't they? There's just an amazing amount of things that are kind of happening out there. So I don't think this thing will stop us, which is great. So and on that note, we probably should wrap it up. It's coming to the top of the hour, guys. So I'm sure you've all got to go and sort of get on with some work and do some things. So thank you so much for joining us, Simon. Where can people find out more about you and Fronted?
Follow fronted.rent on the internet or get Fronted on Twitter.
And of everything around the COVID credit side of things, where can people find out more about that?
covidcredit.uk. And there's a video, you can have a look at it there.
Wonderful. Great work, guys. Thank you for everybody who's joined us this week. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe and see you tomorrow morning.
Bye.
I feel at this point I need